welcome to the 7th episode of the Culture Club podcast. My name is Oscar Dalton. I'm a currency collector, amateur vexillographer, and lover of cultures from all over the world. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. I hope you learned something today, and if you're coming back, thank you so much for supporting us. Today's episode will be on Estonia. So without further ado, let's get into the culture. The Republic of Estonia is a country in Northern Europe. Estonia borders Latvia to the south and Russia to the northeast. To the west, it borders the Baltic Sea, to the north, the Gulf of Finland, and to the east, Lake Peipus. Estonia covers an area of 17,462 square miles, or 45,227 square kilometers. This makes Estonia around the same size as the American state of Georgia, not the country. This size makes Estonia the 29th largest European country. The demonym, or gentilic of Estonia, is Estonian. This means someone from Estonia is called an Estonian. The official language of Estonia is the Estonian language, with no recognized regional languages. There are 1.33 million people living in Estonia right now. Of that, 68% of the population are ethnically homogeneous, having at least one parent of Estonian descent. Some other big ethnic groups in Estonia are Russian, with 25% of the population, and Ukrainian, with 2% of the population. Around 67% of the Estonian population doesn't practice religion at all, but the biggest religion in Estonia is Christianity, with 34% of the population. The biggest Christian denominations in Estonia are Eastern Orthodox with 20%, Lutheranism with 12%, and other Christian denominations having 2% of the population. The capital of Estonia is Tallinn. Tallinn's population is 437,619. Tallinn is also Estonia's largest city. The second largest city in Estonia is Tartu, with a population of 92,715. The GDP, or gross domestic product, which is used to measure a country's wealth, of Estonia, is $49.65 billion US. This makes Estonia the 100th wealthiest country in the world, according to the International Monetary Fund, but they're ranked 101st from the World Bank and 102nd by the UN. The Republic of Estonia has a HDI scale of 0.892. The HDI scale is the Human Development Index, and it measures a country's standard of living. There are two UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Estonia. One is the Tallinn Old Town, and the other is the Stroive Geodetic Arc. Estonia uses Eastern European Time, or UTC+3, and drives on the right side of the road. Those are all the basic facts you need to know about Estonia, so let's move on to the government/subdivisions part of today's episode. The Republic of Estonia is a parliamentary, representative, democratic republic. This basically means that a parliament runs the country, they are democratically elected, and not that much power is given to subdivisions. The Parliament of Estonia, or Riigikogu, is unicameral, meaning there is one House of Parliament. This is opposed to the more widely used bicameral style of governance like the US uses, with the Senate and the House of Representatives. The Riigikogu uses a modification of the D'Hondt voting method, my favorite voting method. In this method, voters rank parties running, and depending on the number of votes the parties get, a party gets a certain number of seats in Parliament. It's a bit confusing, but as we go on, you'll understand it a bit better. There are 101 seats in the Riigikogu, with 56 seats belonging to the government, or ruling coalition. 25 seats belong to the Estonian Centre Party, 19 seats belong to the Estonian Conservative People's Party, and the ISMAA party has 12 seats. The ISMAA party is an Estonian National Conservative Party. The opposition has 45 seats, with 34 seats belonging to the Estonian Reform Party and 11 seats belonging to the Estonian Social Democrat Party. The leader of Estonia is the head of the ruling party, in this case the Centrist Party, and they are called the Prime Minister. The election for who gets into Parliament happens every 4 years in Estonia, with the last election happening in 2019. The current Prime Minister of Estonia is Jüri Ratas. Jüri Ratas was the mayor of Tallinn, Estonia's capital, from 2005 to 2007. He was the vice prime minister of the Riigikogu from 2007 to 2016. He then became leader of the Centrist Party in 2016. And then, when the centrist won a majority in the 2019 parliamentary election, he became the prime minister. There are 15 counties of Estonia, 13 on the mainland and 2 on outlying islands. The most populated are Harju County, Tartu County, and Ida-Viru County. The least populated belongs to the Hiiu County, one of the islands, with a population of just over 9,000. That's my take on the government and subdivisions of Estonia, so let's talk about the languages of Estonia. As we said before, the official language of Estonia is Estonian, but Russian is sometimes spoken in the east part of the country. German is also spoken on the 2 outlying islands and the northeast coast, and Swedish is sometimes spoken on the northern Estonian coast. Estonia has 1,600 deaf citizens and about 20,000 hearing-impaired citizens. Most of these people in Estonia use the Estonian or Russian Sign Language to communicate. But in the southeast part of the country, they use a very cool Estonian-Russian Pidgin Sign Language. The Estonian language is the Uralic language. It's in the Finnic and Southern Finnic language subfamilies, and it's spoken by 1.1 million people, 922,000 inside Estonia and 160,000 outside. The Estonian language uses the Latin writing script. There are 2 main dialects of Estonian: the northern dialect, which is spoken around Tallinn, and the southern dialect, spoken around Tartu. Some other southern Finnic languages are Livonian, spoken in northeast Latvia, and Vadic, spoken in the Ingrian region of Russia. That's my take on the languages of Estonia, so let's talk about some Estonian currency. Estonia uses the European euro. They joined the Eurozone relatively recently in 2011. The ISO code of the euro is EUR, and the ISO number is 978. The subunit of the euro is the cent, also known as the eurocent. The cent is 1/100th of the euro, meaning it takes 100 cents to equal 1 euro. The frequently used banknotes of the euro are the 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100 euro banknotes, but a lesser used 500 euro banknote is also in circulation. Estonia uses the 2, 5, 10, 20, and 50 cent coins alongside the 1 and 2 euro coins. The central bank of Estonia is the Bank of Estonia, like an Estonian Federal Reserve. 1 euro is around $1 and 22 cents, and that's all I could really find on the Estonian side of the euro. So let's talk flags. The Estonian flag is a horizontal tricolor of blue, black, and white. The blue is on top, black in the middle, and white on the bottom. The blue represents the beautiful Estonian sky, and the black represents the rich soil and the fate of the Estonian people. The white represents purity, hard work, and commitment. The Estonian coat of arms is a golden shield with 3 leopards, or lions, on the front, with oak branches surrounding the bottom 2/3 of the shield. This has been used since the 13th century as a symbol of the Estonian people. The wreath of oak leaves stands for perseverance and strength, and the lions represent the fight for freedom in ancient times. The middle lion represents the uprisings in Harjumaa in 1343, and the third lion represents the fights for Estonian freedom in 1918 to 1920. That's all the info I have on the Estonian flag and coat of arms, so let's talk about some Estonian food and music. Estonia is well known for 3 things in food: fish, chocolate, and rye bread. The Estonians love their rye bread. There's even a saying in Estonia: respect the bread, it's older than you. Some other popular dishes in Estonia are wild boar, due to the heavy forests all around Estonia, and vastlak ukul, which is usually eaten on Shrove Tuesday, a Christian holiday. It's a sweet bun filled with cream and sometimes jam. The top music charts in Estonia are purely Estonian. In the top 40, there's only one song that isn't by an Estonian artist. And I find that pretty crazy. But right now in Estonia, a really big band is a band Cartoon. Cartoon is a huge band, occupying the top 4 spots and the 7th spot in the Estonian top 40. The most popular song right now is called On and On. I'll play a few seconds of it for you. Along the way, melodies we haven't played. Looking back at that and actually listening to them for the first time, I'm realizing just now that the band Cartoon might not be Estonian, and I might have messed up my whole research, but all the other bands in the Estonian top 40 are, so I made a little oopsie there and I'm sorry. I actually can't find where Cartoon is from, but hearing his voice, I'm pretty sure that he is an American. So I guess Cartoon is not an Estonian band, but they are still huge in Estonia. That's all I really have on Estonian food and music. So, let's get into some Estonian sports. The most popular sport in Estonia is basketball. They have a really successful league in their country called the Estonian-Latvian Basketball League, and it's a combination of those two countries' homegrown basketball talents. Probably the best Estonian basketball player of all time is Martin Ilsat. He played for the Mavericks and the Jazz in the US, but he also played for some of Europe's best basketball teams, like Maccabi Tel Aviv, CSKA Moscow, AEK, and Aris. Some other popular sports in Estonia, though, are beach volleyball, cricket, cycling, and football. Some popular Estonian athletes from history are Jan Talts, a weightlifter, Avo Pikas, a cyclist, and Erkki Nuul. Erkki Nuul was a decathlete in the 90s and early 2000s. He was voted Estonia's sexiest man in 2006, and then he became a politician. Estonia is the 104th best footballing nation according to the FIFA World Rankings. The top flight of Estonian football is the Meistriliiga. The Meistriliiga has 10 teams. The champions qualify for the UEFA Champions League, first qualifying round, and the second place team will qualify for the upcoming Europa Conference League first round. On the other end of the table, the bottom team gets relegated to the Iceliga, and the second bottom team plays a two-legged game against the second place team from the Iceliga to see what team gets a spot in the top flight next season. That's all I got on Estonian sports, so let's talk about some Estonian myths. Estonian mythology largely originates from pre-Christian Estonian paganism. They focus on a polytheistic god and goddess hierarchy, with the main god being Jamal, or Taiva, the god of the sky. Some other important gods are Pikar, the god of lightning and thunder, Metsik, the god of fertility, and Vitima, the goddess of the water. There aren't really well-known Estonian myths, and the practices of the now extinct Estonian paganists are shrouded in mystery, so I think we're going to have a really short myth segment for today. There's nothing really more to talk about myths, so let's just investigate some.
Watching Finnish TV, as this was our only connection to the free world. This is why I, from the bottom of my heart, dislike borders in Europe.
That was Estonian Prime Minister speaking in very good English, might I add, about the future of Northern Europe and how they need to become more connected. But anyway, on to the history. The Estonian people have usually just been grouped in with the Finnish. Even medieval Estonian kingdoms were considered Finnic kingdoms. This all ended in 1217 when the Danes invaded. Estonia was first called its own country, albeit as a satellite state of the Danish. During the Livonian War of 1561, Estonia was a key battleground, with Sweden controlling the north and Poland-Lithuania controlling the south. Eventually, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth prevailed, and controlled Estonia until the Great Northern War, when Russia took over in 1710 until 1917. In 1917, the Estonians led a war of independence and eventually won in 1921 and joined the League of Nations, a predecessor to the UN, shortly after. But all good things must come to an end, and the Soviets invaded and occupied Estonia in the 1940s. But on the Eastern Front, the Nazis invaded in 1941 and controlled Estonia until 1944. But then Estonia was reoccupied by the Soviets from 1945 to 1991, and they gained independence when the Soviet Union fell in 1992. that's pretty much how Estonia got to its present day borders. Congrats, you've made it to the end of today's episode. If you found this at all interesting, please like, subscribe, comment, or follow wherever you're listening. If you want to get in contact with me, you could find me on YouTube and SoundCloud as Culture Club Podcast, on Twitter at Culture Club Pod1, and on Facebook as Oscar Dalton. Stay tuned for next week's episode on Monaco, and I'll see you next week.